What's going on, everyone? My name is Asmi Hongos, and in this video, let's talk about iPad Air 2020. I've had this for a few weeks now, and this is the iPad for everybody. I would consider myself a pro user. I'm a photographer, web video producer, UI UX designer, and some things do fall short for me, but of course, I am a tech YouTube channel, and it is my job to nitpick. But for the average consumer, most of these things aren't even going to be seen. So as Philip DeFranco would say, let's just jump into it. And of course, the biggest thing that we notice is the exterior. The iPad Air aligns itself up with the design language of the new iPhone and the iPad Pro and the nostalgia of the iPhone 4, which I absolutely love. I think it's one of the best things that came to it because there is no longer a home button. The screen wraps itself really nicely around the device, and videos, content, and everything in between is just so much nicer to look at. I am not a personal fan of the matte colors. I think they're kind of dull and boring, and I personally went with a space gray, of course, because it's a nice and neutral color. I personally see the iPad Air or any iPad as a multimedia tool. So when your guests come over, you don't want to give them your phone. You definitely would give them your iPad though. And because of the exclusion of the headphone jack, I feel like that kind of diminishes the idea of a multimedia kit coming from the iPad. The bezels on this are really nice. They're a bit bigger than the iPad Pro, but I find that I don't really see it too much after a while. It just kind of disappears and blends in, especially when I'm just watching YouTube videos or movies on Disney Plus where they are shooting in a much different format. So I'm completely fine with the bezel just being a bit bigger. With USB-C, this means that there's less cables, and I more than welcome that. It's really nice to just carry one cable that charges absolutely everything. So USB-C, everything is really nearby except for the iPhone. The biggest exterior change that we see on the outside is TouchID. I was 100% excited for this because I felt that Apple already had mastered TouchID in previous models. I was genuinely disappointed with TouchID on the iPad Air. It's really nice that it's on the home button, and that seems like a smart idea, but a lot of times I find myself firmly put my thumb on the home button to the point where it's too firm. It will open the iPad, but at the same time it'll close it. It's a disappointment, but I think that it can be fixed with software updates in the future. I'm very happy to say that iPadOS has finally started to find its groove and its rhythm after so many years. The average person, and even some professionals, will be able to get 85% of the things done as a regular computer. Emails, phone calls, FaceTimes, photo and video editing. However, when you get to the very cusp of professionals, those who are rendering heavy graphics, After Effects, Premiere Pro, DaVinci, you are going to run into a lot of problems because those applications are not available just yet on this device. Going on a computer still feels like a lot better of a choice, and you have more expandability in terms of software. I still wouldn't call the iPad a competitor to the computer because I feel like there's just different ways of using it, and I'll tell you how I use it later down in the video. To me, being able to dual boot both Mac and Windows is sort of like the way I see a computer. You know, you have your choice of booting whatever software you want on it. And I don't think I ever see Apple letting you do that on the iPad. I've seen Android tablets being able to load Linux onto them, and that's kind of a measurement for me of what a computer is. The widgets on iPadOS feel very restrictive. On iPhone, they did a really great job for a first try, right? On iPad, they limited it to the first screen. There's no XL or triple XL version, which I think should be coming to iPad. There's no real-time refresh with the better and bigger battery. Widgets are just kind of there, and it feels like they're just half-baked at the end. The one aspect that I thought applications had gotten rid of, though, was this sort of lack of adaptability to the iPad. The iPad is a much bigger screen, so you would think that all applications would already be optimized, and certain applications aren't optimized for the iPad. And you know, I'm not talking about small-time developers. I'm talking about huge applications like Robinhood, rest in peace, Instagram, and Clubhouse. Make sure to follow me on Clubhouse, by the way. So it's not an iPad Air review without talking about the Apple Pencil. And to me, as a UI UX designer, I'm not super happy that I bought the Pencil. Maybe I haven't found the right application. If I do find the right app, I'll let you guys know. It's part of the experience, but I never find myself saying I'm so happy that I bought the Apple Pencil. But the Apple Pencil 2 compared to the Apple Pencil 1 does feel a lot better. It feels grippier, and it's just much nicer to handle. I wish that they put the magnets on both sides because sometimes it does fall off. But to me, that's the Apple Pencil, short and sweet. Nobody buys an iPad for the cameras, right? But that doesn't mean that the camera should be bad. And to be quite honest with y'all, I was a person that took photos with their iPad in public. Yes, I lost some of my dignity, but I'm genuinely annoyed at how bad these photos are. They look like they're photos from 2 years ago, and my iPhone XR does a better job at processing these photos. The dynamic range, the highlights, the shadows, they're very, very poor. And when you're paying this price, which is nearly the latest iPhone model, I think you should just be getting better photos. However, I'm a little bit conflicted too because, hey, the iPad should be for document scanning and the occasional family photo. Let me know what you guys think. Should the iPad Pro have a nice, better piece of glass with beautiful optics inside because, hey, you are giving a piece of machinery that you can put better glass into it, better optics, maybe even IPS into it? Or should it just be like, hey, it's good enough, it's an iPad, no one should be taking too many photos with this anyways. The front camera on the other side, see what I did there? It's good, it's great. Just the positioning is kind of weird. When I take FaceTime calls, I usually set it on landscape, but the camera is to the left, and you usually want to keep contact with the person, but you're looking to the left, and at some point I felt like I was going cross-eyed. Maybe in the future we'll see an iPad where the camera is on the side. Cameras are good, but they can be better, and it's something that I'm definitely torn about in this review. If you're watching this, you probably care about the performance, and I gotta say, there's nothing wrong with the performance. Everything is nice, silky, smooth. Every application will run like a freaking champ. The iPad Air is designed to tackle that with the A14 Bionic chip. That's really easy to say because this is the newest model. Software updates don't slow down until maybe 3 to 4 years down the line, but you'll be very happy that it is that future-proof. Battery on this is not that bad. I personally got 2 days of usage from it, watching YouTube videos, streaming music, replying to emails. I did do a bit of photo and video editing, and I gotta say, 2 days of this is great, especially if you're going on a short trip and you don't want to take too many things. Why is 64 gigabytes even a base model anymore? It should be 128 gigabytes across the board. If you are a consumer, save yourself a bit of money and get yourself a 256 gigabyte version. You will be much, much happier. The only people I really suggest a 64 gigabyte to is if you work in an office or you're doing a startup and you're limited in your cache, but that's a different conversation. Like the title suggests, this is a glorified screen recording machine. The iPad Air is like sort of my mini assistant, especially when I'm working on other projects and I need to get found footage from YouTube. You know, YouTube, they could make a lot of money if they just had like a found footage button that you pay like $5 for a month. I would totally buy that. But for right now, the iPad Air does that really well. It's great for taking screenshots and to give me a better perspective as to how my videos look on different devices. The size of the iPad Air was like my biggest concern because I thought I was going to reject it later down the line, but I'm very happy with it. You know, originally I was going to save up to get the 13-inch iPad Pro because everybody says you're a professional and you need to get the Pro experience. But if the Pro experience is essentially 120 gigahertz and a LiDAR sensor that I'm probably not going to use for like another 5 years, I don't think that justifies the price. So the size on this is more than good enough to edit my photos, more than good enough to edit some vlogs, and I'm very happy that I chose this over the iPad Pro. The screen quality, both Samsung and Apple have some of the best displays in the game, and with the iPad Air I can safely know that all my photos are going to be color accurate. So if you're a photographer, you are going to be more than happy to know that if you edit on this, you will have a nicely calibrated photo. I think it's also a really great second monitor for those people that don't want to own a second monitor, you know, those Matt Diavellas or those hipsters. It just works really great with sidecars when you need to get a second perspective, and you can just move it along the way, especially with Mac OS and iPadOS and iOS becoming even more integrated as a whole. There's some genuine things I feel indifferent about when it comes to the iPad, one of them being the way that you type. I know that I personally wanted the aesthetic, nice looking folio look, but I kind of regret it now because as I was typing, especially at an angle, I felt like I was going to get some sort of freaking carpal tunnel typing, and I like to type for long periods of time, especially when I don't want to take out my computer. And if you're like that, you're a writer, you're a comedian, you should definitely get a folio case for this. Heck, sacrifice the aesthetic for your health. I know tech community is all about that 120 gigahertz, but for me, I've seen the 120. I don't care about it. I don't care about the LiDAR, but we'll leave it at that. The stereo speakers. You're giving a beautiful canvas to work with. You're giving some of the best, sound designers in the world, and I get some mediocre speakers coming out of this. They could be louder. They could, take the technology from that spatial audio and integrate it into the iPad, but they don't, and they really don't. I think that's the only reason that I would even bump myself up to an iPad Pro is just for better speakers. Who do I recommend this machine to? aside from just average consumer, dead center photographers. This is the perfect machine, especially if you are a traveling photographer, you're a wedding photographer. You can show your clients your portfolio in a nice, beautiful, high-res screen. You can show them the before and after. Heck, you can even do some same-day edits on the day of a wedding. This is the perfect machine for that. You don't need the iPad Pro. This is all you need. Second, students, if you're on a budget, if you're not part of the sciences or the engineering or the CS, this is a perfect machine for you too, because it's nice, lightweight, it's aesthetic, and of course, you'll love it because it's an Apple product. To be quite honest, I did own an iPad mini a few years back, but it felt like a giant iPhone, like a meme sort of thing. But I'm really happy that the iPad has finally started to find its groove. It feels so unique. And like I said at the start, it is a mix of both macOS and iOS. And although there's some complaints and there's some things I don't like, it really is an awesome machine at the end of the day. Let me know what you think, especially when it comes to the cameras, because I was like, okay, this is a big piece of machinery, but it's also an iPad, so you shouldn't be taking pictures outside. At the end of the day, I thank you so much for your time and your attention. My name is Isaac Mihangos, and I'll catch you in the next one.